This happened last month. I was at the observatory late at night, which is pretty normal for me. I've worked there for years, so the quiet doesn't bother me much. But I remember feeling very alone that night. I had been staring at the screen for hours, going through the data from the James Webb telescope. It was late, and the machinery hummed softly around me. Suddenly I noticed something strange. Some files were corrupted. I thought maybe I had pressed the wrong button, but the timestamps were linked to a planet I had never seen before. My heart raced. Something about it felt off, but I couldn't shake the curiosity. The next few days flew by. I returned to that data over and over again. I began to see patterns and strange movements. I felt drawn to this planet, as if it were calling me. But soon I started hearing whispers through the machines. They were faint and hard to pinpoint, but they made my skin crawl. Was I imagining things? I couldn't tell. Each night I felt a presence, like someone was watching me. I spent more hours at the observatory, desperate to unlock the mystery. Outside the windows, darkness swallowed the forest. One night I swear I saw a figure lurking among the trees. I shook my head, trying to focus. It had to be my imagination. My colleagues noticed I was different. They asked if I was okay, but I assured them I was fine. I was too deep into the research. I ignored their concerns because the planet felt so real. But the feeling of being watched grew stronger. It set my teeth on edge, yet I couldn't stop. Then came the dreams. Night after night, I found myself in strange places, listening to voices that pulled me in. I'd wake up sweating, my heart pounding. I didn't want to admit I was scared. I thought maybe I was just overworking myself. Still, that planet felt like something I had to understand. One night I was at the telescope again when a chill ran down my spine. That's when I heard it. A voice, clear and direct. It said my name. Liam. I spun around, but the room was empty. My heart raced. Sweat dripped down my back. Then the monitor lit up, showing the planet. It pulsed as if it had a heartbeat. I couldn't look away. It felt like I was being drawn into it. My mind raced. Was this real? Was I losing it? I had to know what was happening. I leaned in closer. Something unexplainable was happening. I felt a weight in my chest. I could hardly breathe. The code, it felt alive, like it was changing me. I wanted to scream, but I couldn't make a sound. That planet somehow, it felt like it wanted something from me. I backed away, heart slamming in my chest. Whatever I had discovered, it was more than data. I was terrified of what I might uncover next. I couldn't shake the feeling that the planet was more than just a discovery. It was as if it held secrets, waiting for someone to unlock them. Secrets that were meant to remain hidden. The following evening, I decided to dig deeper. I had to understand what this planet wanted from me. As I arrived at the observatory, everything looked the same, yet I felt different. The air crackled with tension, like a storm looming. I opened my laptop and booted up the telescope system. The screen flickered to life, and there it was. The pulsing planet, mocking me with its mystery. I took a deep breath and began running queries on the corrupted files, searching for any clues about its history. Hours passed. The whispers grew louder, as if they were urging me on. I squirmed in my seat, feeling claustrophobic despite the wide-open space around me. I grabbed my pen and began jotting down notes on the anomalies. That's when my phone buzzed. It was a message from Sarah, my colleague. "Liam, are you still at the observatory? I'm coming by. I'm worried about you." I frowned. I didn't want anyone to see me like this. I was close to finding something significant, and I didn't want anyone to interrupt. I quickly typed back, "I'm fine, just need more time." But as I shifted my attention back to the screen, the planet's image flickered. All of a sudden I noticed something. A tiny blip, barely visible, almost like a distress signal. I leaned in closer, squinting at the monitor. The blip repeated, and a chilling sensation crawled up my spine. It was as if the planet was trying to communicate something. Just as I began to process this revelation, the lights in the observatory flickered. I glanced up. The shadows seemed to stretch along the walls, and for a moment, I thought I saw a figure out of the corner of my eye. I shook my head, trying to clear my mind, Then everything went dark. The power cut, plunging me into an eerie silence. Panic set in. I felt for my phone, using its light to navigate through the pitch-black room. My heart raced as I stumbled to find the emergency generator, and then I heard it again. My name. Liam. The voice was closer this time. My breath caught in my throat. Was I imagining things? I fumbled with the flashlight, desperately trying to illuminate the space around me. Out of the corner of my eye, I saw the silhouette. It was standing by the window, staring out into the empty space. My pulse thundered in my ears. "Who's there?" I shouted, my voice trembling. No response. But I could feel the weight of its presence. I wanted to run, but my feet were glued to the floor. The whispers intensified, surrounding me like a storm. I had to know what was happening. I needed to confront my fear. Then everything came crashing down. The lights flickered back to life, blinding me momentarily. When my vision cleared, the figure was gone. But on the monitor, the images of the planet transformed into a series of symbols, strange, ancient characters that I couldn't comprehend. I took a step closer, heart pounding. I knew then that I had stumbled upon something far beyond my understanding. And if the whispers were right, I was in way over my head. I stood frozen in front of the screen, staring at the strange symbols. They moved rhythmically, almost as if they were alive. My mind raced. I couldn't believe what I was seeing. This felt like a warning, a message, a plea from a world I knew nothing about. The urgency in the air pulsed around me. I needed more light. I scrambled to open the heavy curtains that blocked the observatory's windows. As I did, the moonlight flooded in, casting long shadows on the walls. The symbols glowed on the screen, illuminating the room as though they existed in their own universe. Each character seemed to vibrate with energy, almost begging to be understood. I reached for my notebook to jot down the symbols, but as I did, a sharp noise broke through the silence. A thud, heavy and deliberate, echoed from somewhere deep within the observatory's lower levels. My heart dropped. Had Sarah arrived? Or was there something else lurking in the dark? I turned off my phone light, hoping to listen carefully. The whispers had returned, swirling in my mind. A chorus of voices seemed to merge with the sound of the thud, amplifying the tension. Ignoring my instincts, I decided to investigate. I crept toward the staircase that led down to the lower area of the observatory. Each step felt like a mile as I moved cautiously, straining to hear anything over the pounding of my heart. The stillness was unnerving and every shadow looked threatening. When I reached the bottom of the stairs, I paused. I could hear faint scratching sounds now, as if something was struggling. That's when a soft, ghastly voice broke through the silence. "Liam." I froze. It was unmistakably Sarah's voice. "Sarah?" I called out, but there was no answer. Instead, that scratching grew louder. My instincts screamed at me to run, but an overpowering urge to help her pulled me forward. I reached out for the light switch but hesitated. What if I turned the lights on and revealed something I wasn't ready to face? The scratching stopped suddenly, and a silence fell over the room. I braced myself for whatever I'd find. Then there was another sound, a soft knock on the door leading to the equipment room. I couldn't tell if it came from outside, or if something was trying to get in. The whispers started again, but this time they were clearer, almost coherent. "Help." Something was wrong. I took a deep breath, my hands trembling. "Sarah, are you in there?" I shouted, hoping to get a response. The door rattled in reply, and then it fell silent. I felt a chill wash over me. What could be on the other side? I needed answers. I was too deep into this, into whatever dark web I had unearthed. I couldn't turn back now. Tensing, I raised my hand to the door and pushed it open slowly. As the door creaked open, a cold gust of air rushed past me and the lights flickered again. The room was dark, the shadows stretching out before me. It felt vast and empty, yet something was watching. Then I heard it, a whisper, distinct and urgent. "You shouldn't be here." I stepped inside and the door slammed shut behind me. The darkness wrapped around me like a heavy cloak. I could barely see a few feet in front of me, but I felt the weight of something in the air. It was electric, charged with tension. I took a step forward, my heart racing, desperate for answers. "Sarah?" I called again, my voice sounding hollow in the stillness. There was a moment of silence, and then I heard it, a faint whisper, almost lost in the shadows. It sounded like a plea, echoing from the corners of the room. "Help!" I strained to make out anything in the murk. The tiny sounds I had heard earlier began again, scratching, but this time it was accompanied by a low rumbling, like thunder rolling in from a distance. There was a presence here. I could feel it, and it felt wrong, mismatched, and angry. "Sarah, where are you?" I pushed past the threshold and reached out into the dark, my fingers brushing against a cool surface. I stumbled forward, searching for any source of light. The air felt thick, almost suffocating, and the whispers started to swirl around me again, forming a cacophony of despair. I finally found the edge of a table and instinctively reached for something, anything that might help. My fingers closed around a flashlight. I turned it on and was met with a beam of light slicing through the dark. A jumble of equipment lay scattered across the room, old machinery, wires, and papers. But there was more. My breath caught as I scanned the space, and that's when I saw it. In the far corner, partially obscured by shadow, I recognized a figure hunched over. My heart dropped. "Sarah!" I called out again, my voice wavering. There was no response. The figure moved slightly, and I flicked the light toward it. A chill ran down my spine. It was her, but something was wrong. Her hair was disheveled, and her clothes were torn. She was shaking, staring blankly at a small screen in front of her. The symbols from the observatory glowed brightly on its surface. "Sarah!" I rushed over, but as I approached, her head snapped up and she locked eyes with me. It was as if she didn't recognize me. Her expression was one of terror. "You need to leave," she whispered, trembling visibly. Before I could respond, the room shook violently. The equipment rattled on the table and dust fell from the ceiling. "What's happening?" I shouted, panic rising in my throat. "The symbols!" Sarah yelled, pointing weakly at the screen. They're summoning something you don't understand." Just then the lights flickered violently, plunging us back into darkness. A howling wind seemed to echo through the walls, and I felt the floor tremble beneath my feet. We were no longer alone. "Get back!" I shouted, pulling her away from the screen as a deep guttural growl reverberated around us. As the lights came back on, I saw the shadows shifting, twisting as if given life, and my instincts screamed at me to flee. But before we could move, a figure erupted from the darkness, a dark shape that surged toward us, and my world exploded into chaos. "Run!" I yelled, but the words barely escaped my lips as the shadows closed in. I stumbled back, Sarah's trembling hand clutching mine as we darted away from the encroaching shadows. My heart pounded in my chest, each beat a warning to keep moving. "This way!" I shouted, veering toward a flickering exit sign in the far corner of the room. We raced forward, the raw energy of the darkness swirling behind us, hungry and relentless. I could hear the low growl escalating, a terrifying beast waiting to pounce. The sharp scent of metal and ozone filled the air, making it hard to breathe. "No!" Sarah shrieked, stopping abruptly. I turned to her, panic flooding my senses. "We can't leave. The symbols." "This isn't worth it," I urged, tugging her hands. "We'll be swallowed whole." But she shook her head fiercely, her eyes bright with a mix of fear and determination. "If we don't stop it now, it won't end. We'll unleash something." The floor trembled again, and I could see the shadows stretching and writhing, more defined now. Dark tendrils snaked along the walls, reaching for us. Something in Sarah's eyes made me take a step back. "Please," I cried, "just trust me." With a desperate twist, I pulled her towards the exit, but she yanked her arm free. I turned to see her standing resolute, staring at the screen where the symbols throbbed with an eerie glow. I could feel the terrible pull of that light reaching for her. "Sarah, don't!" I shouted, but she began to stagger forward, drawn by whatever force lurked within those symbols. The growl morphed into a chorus of screams, echoing our fears. I felt it too, a call, whispering, clawing at the edges of my mind. Suddenly, the screen exploded into a flash of blinding light, and the air exploded with energy. I shielded my eyes, but the light seeped in, illuminating the room in a harsh glare. The shadows recoiled, as if stung. But then, just as quickly as it appeared, the light vanished, leaving us in darkness again. A heavy silence settled, the air still charged like before, but now it felt different. I took a tentative step, but the ground was vibrating beneath me, trembling like it was alive. That was different, I breathed, my voice barely above a whisper. No, it was just the beginning, Sarah said, her voice steady now. It unlocked something. We need to go back to the center. For what? The panic bubbled up again. To finish what was started, we can't let it spread, she insisted, her face set with determination. I felt a chill creep down my spine. The gravity of her words hung in the air like smoke, suffocating. And what if we can't control it? What if it overpowers us? She didn't answer. Instead, she pointed to the far wall where a faint outline of a door emerged in the shadows. A new surge of urgency flooded through me. That door could lead to safety or deeper into danger. Follow me, I urged, not allowing time for second thoughts. I dashed toward the door, the sensation of being hunted reigniting. As we approached it, I heard the growl coming back, more feral this time. The shadows were regaining strength, pouring through the cracks like liquid darkness. I turned back to Sarah, but before I could say anything, the door swung open to reveal a long corridor lined with flickering lights. That's our way out, she yelled, not waiting for me to respond. But the moment we stepped inside, the air shifted, pulling at our backs. The growl grew louder, reverberating through the walls, a chorus of laughter now mixed with anger. We were not just running, we were being hunted. Then, from the depths of the hallway, something shattered the silence, a loud crash that shook the corridor as we sprinted forward. I had never felt fear like this before. What was coming for us? What had Sarah awakened? But before I could ponder further, Sarah glanced back one last time, her expression a blend of terror and hope. We have to find the truth. With that, we plunged deeper into the unknown, knowing we might never escape whatever we had unleashed. The corridor felt endless as we ran. The flickering lights overhead did little to dispel the dark that clung to us like a second skin. Each step sounded like thunder in my ears, and I could feel the shadows swirling, wrapping around our ankles. Keep going, Sarah yelled, her voice sharp with urgency. I glanced back, catching a glimpse of movement, a mass of darkness undulating like something alive pursuing us. Suddenly, we reached a fork. To the left, the corridor connected to another, dark and narrow. To the right, it led to a room bathed in a dim, ghostly light. I hesitated, trying to weigh our options. Which path would give us a chance? Right, Sarah shouted, not bothering to look. She took off without waiting for me. I had no choice but to follow, trusting her instincts more than my own fear. As we bolted into the new room, the air changed. The shadows seemed to hold back, hesitating as if they couldn't cross an invisible line. I quickly scanned the area. What was this place? The walls were lined with strange symbols similar to the ones on the screen before. Each one glimmered faintly, almost like they were trying to communicate. My heart raced. What is this? I asked, both terrified and fascinated. It's the source, Sarah replied, eyes wide with understanding. These symbols are connected to everything. We need to activate them. Activate them? Are you crazy? I protested. You saw what happened last time. But now we know more. We have to control it before it controls us. This room feels different, protective. Before I could argue, she stepped closer to the symbols, her expression half brave, half terrified. I could see the uncertainty flicker behind her resolve. The ground began to hum beneath our feet. We don't have time, I urged, glancing around us. I could feel the shadows gathering again, and the growl rose in threat. We need to get out of here. Sarah raised her hands, already reaching for the nearest symbol. It pulsed as she touched it, resonating in a brief flash of light that made the shadows rear back in alarm. The moment felt surreal. That's it. We're on to something, she cried, excitement taking over. I couldn't shake the feeling that we were playing with fire. What if this is a trap? It isn't, she insisted, touching another symbol. The room thrummed with energy, and the shadows writhed like they were caught in a storm. Then everything went still. For a heartbeat, the air felt thick, almost suffocating. My pulse quickened. I could see a shadow moving towards us again, darker than the others, growing in size. That's not the shadow we unleashed, I said, panic creeping into my voice. What is that? Sarah turned, a look of terror on her face as she took in the rapidly approaching figure. It was no longer just a mass of darkness, but something distinctly humanoid. Its features obscured, but its intent unmistakable. Run! She shouted as the room erupted into chaos. I grabbed her hand, charging back toward the doorway we entered, praying we weren't too late. There's no escape, the figure called out, its voice rolling like thunder, blending with the growling shadows. You're in my domain now. I felt the weight of dread settle on my heart. As we reached the door, I knew we had made a grave mistake, but we had come this far. Now the only option left was to face whatever awaited us on the other side. And just as we crossed the threshold, the door slammed shut behind us, sealing our fate in darkness. The darkness felt suffocating as the door thudded shut, trapping us in a narrow corridor. My mind raced, and I glanced at Sarah, whose wide eyes reflected both fear and determination. What now? I asked, my voice barely audible. We were in a liminal space, the air thick with a tension that buzzed around us. She hesitated. We regroup. We need a plan. Those symbols. Let's see if we can harness their power again. I didn't respond right away. Behind us I could feel the weight of that looming figure. I turned my head to check, half expecting it to follow us through the door. But there was nothing. Just the oppressive silence pressing down on us. Look at the symbols, Sarah said, her voice steadying. They glowed before. They can do it again. We moved slowly, my heart thudding in rhythm with the eerie pulse of the room. I focused on one that seemed to shimmer faintly. What if we activate the right ones? Then we might push back whatever that thing is, Sarah replied, her brows furrowing in thought. But we need to work together. I nodded, my unease battling with a creeping sense of hope. We took a deep breath, standing shoulder to shoulder. On 3, 1, 2, 3, we reached for the symbols simultaneously. The moment our fingers touched the surface, a surge of energy raced through us. A bright light erupted, washing over the room and momentarily blinding me. I felt heat spreading through my body, invigorating, yet frightening. The shadows recoiled again, but this time they didn't vanish. Instead, they wove a more intricate pattern around us, almost responding to our actions. My stomach churned as I felt the darkness coiling tighter. Keep going, Sarah urged, and we continued to touch the symbols one after another. Each time the light flared, the shadows screamed in a chorus of rage. The humanoid figure's presence felt closer, lurking just beyond our reach. Why isn't it working? I shouted, desperation creeping into my voice as exhaustion threatened to take over. Maybe we're missing something, Sarah cried. Look for a pattern. Panic surged again as I scanned the symbols. They were all unique, but then I noticed it. The ones that glowed strongest shared a common shape. There. The triangles. We need to focus on them. Without waiting for a response, I moved to the symbols marked with triangles and pressed my hands down firmly. Join me, I cried, and Sarah followed suit. The room exploded with light, this time brighter than before. Then something shifted. A crack appeared in the floor beneath our feet, jagged and black, pulsing with the same rhythm as the shadows. A voice echoed within the fissure, sinister and melodic. You cannot tread here without consequences. Suddenly, tendrils of darkness shot from the crack, lashing out and grazing my arm. I wrenched it back, pain flaring, feeling dread crawl over my skin. Get back, I yelled, trying to reassure both Sarah and myself. Hold on, she shouted as she braced herself against the symbols, trying to anchor us in this chaotic moment. But the figure behind us roared, its voice enveloping everything. You've awakened forces beyond your understanding. That's when I saw it again, the face hidden within the shadow. It was contorted and filled with malice, and my breath caught in my throat at the sight. "Sarah!" I screamed. But it was too late. The ground beneath us cracked wider, swallowing our cries into the abyss, and the shadows began to explode around us in a frenzy of wild darkness. The ground trembled beneath us, the fissure widening like a hungry maw. I gripped Sarah's arm, panic surging inside me. "We need to move!" I shouted, but it felt useless against the deepening chaos. "Where?" she gasped, glancing wildly around. Everything was spiraling, shadows flickering and shifting like a living nightmare. I tugged her away from the crack, instinct driving us forward. To the symbols, we can't let them go. As we stumbled back, I noticed the glowing triangles pulsing in time with my heartbeat. They beckoned us, promising shelter against the encroaching darkness. We pressed our backs against the wall, trying to harness the power of the symbols while the shadowy figure loomed closer. "Just focus," I said, forcing myself to breathe. "We can do this." Our hearts raced, hands hovering over the triangles. The air sizzled with energy, and I could feel the fear tightening my throat. We had to find a way to control what we had awakened, or we'd be consumed. "On three again," Sarah encouraged, her voice steadying. 1, 2, 3. We both slammed our palms down. Light exploded from the symbols, brighter than anything I had ever seen. As the brilliance washed over us, I felt a surge of warmth that almost felt like safety. But then shadows surged back, angry and chaotic. Suddenly, we were no longer alone. From the blackness, more shapes emerged, twisting and writhing, moving like dark tendrils intent on snatching us. I had no idea how many there were, but it felt like hundreds, all reaching and clawing. "Sarah!" The sound of her name tore from me as I instinctively pulled her closer, my heartbeat echoing the frantic energy around us. The tendrils lunged, brushing against my calf. I winced, the coldness seeping into my skin. "We have to activate the other symbols," I urged. "Maybe the circles." "Right!" Her determination shone through. We pivoted toward a series of glowing circles on the wall. Hands outstretched, we raced toward them, clawing through the chaos. As we reached for the circles, a deep rumble shook the air. "You think you can reverse the tide?" The sinister voice taunted, echoing from every shadow. The glowing circles felt warm beneath our palms. I could sense something building within them, an energy that felt ancient, almost sentient. "Do it!" I yelled. But doubt crept in. What if this was a mistake? We pressed down. The light exploded again, illuminating the room. But this time it felt different. The circles spun, twisted, and merged with the triangles. A surge rocketed through both of us, binding us to this strange place, this ancient power. Then just as quickly the light flickered and died, leaving us in darkness again. "What did we do?" Sarah whispered, fear inching back into her voice. That's when I heard it, a low, guttural growl rising from the depths below. My stomach dropped as the shadows surged upward, coiling around our feet like snakes. "Run!" I screamed, tearing away from the symbols, dragging Sarah with me. We dashed down the corridor, the darkness snapping at our heels like a hungry beast. And then, through the chaos, I saw it, glimmers of light emerging from behind us, cracking the darkness wide open. But was it salvation, or something far worse? The glimmers grew brighter, but so did the rumble, a relentless sound that felt like it was inside my bones. "Keep going," I shouted at Sarah, my legs pumping harder, fueled by desperation. The light flicked like a heartbeat behind us, but I didn't dare look back. I was convinced that if I did, I'd see something horrific. We rounded a corner, and the corridor narrowed. Shadows twisted around us, clawing at our heels, whispering promises that sounded like curses. I felt the icy grip of dread. "We need a plan," I panted, scanning the walls for another symbol. Something, anything, to hold on to. "What about the light?" Sarah shouted over the noise of the growl closing in. "Can we use it?" "I don't know," I admitted. Panic clawed at my throat again. Maybe it can trap the shadows? "Then let's try." I spotted a depression in the wall, a faint outline of a symbol that glimmered as we approached. We drew closer, hands outstretched. The shadows flared, hissing like angry creatures. "Focus," I urged, forcing my racing thoughts to settle. "On 3. 1, 2, 3. Our palms hit the cold surface of the symbol. The light flared again, this time brighter, a dome of radiance enveloping us. The whispers turned to shrieks, piercing the air like daggers. I could feel the shadows recoiling, anger crackling in the air like static electricity. But as the glow enveloped us, I realized it wasn't just light. It was warmth, a protective shield. "It's working," I said, heart racing with both hope and fear. The shadows writhed against the dome, pulsing with fury. I could almost see their grotesque faces, mouths grimacing, teeth bared. "We have to keep it up," Sarah yelled, but I could feel fatigue setting in, draining my energy. "I don't know how much longer I can hold this," I gasped, my arms trembling. "We can't stop," she insisted, determination lacing her words. "Think about what they'll do if they break through." Her words ground down into my fear, kicking up the resolve I barely had left. "Then we won't let them." A new sound erupted behind me, a crack like thunder. I knew we had to create something powerful enough to push back. What if we merge our powers? "Let's try." We pressed our palms deeper into the symbol. This time I didn't just think of light. I drew on every ounce of strength and fear within me, pouring it into the symbol beside Sarah. An energy sparked, brighter than anything before. "Now!" I cried, the pulse beating faster. "Push!" We pushed against the darkness with everything we had. The dome expanded, engulfing the shadows. I felt a release, as if a pressure valve had burst. The shrieks turned into howls, echoing in an endless void. Then, without warning, the ground shook violently. "What's happening?" Sarah screamed, fear splashing across her features. Before I could answer, the light ruptured outward, bursting through the shadows, and I saw something. Some massive shape, the source of the darkness we fought against. It loomed above us, its features distorted but unmistakable. That's when I realized we were not just battling shadows. We had awakened something ancient, and it wasn't going to let us escape easily. "Get ready," I warned, backing away as the darkness surged again, fueled by something even worse. And in that moment, as the figures escaped into the light, I felt the full weight of our mistake. The ground heaved and roared beneath us. Sarah and I stumbled backward, grappling with panic as the light flickered erratically, creating a terrible dance of shadows around us. I could see it now, a monstrous silhouette emerging from the swirling darkness. Its shape was distorted, shifting between forms that felt both familiar and entirely alien. A chill ran down my spine, and instinctively, I pulled Sarah closer. "Whatever it is, we can't let it reach us," I yelled, my voice barely breaking above the cacophony of growls and piercing wails that joined the shadows. It was an otherworldly sight, like a nightmare materializing right before our eyes. "Think, Liam. The symbols. We have to use them to amplify the light," Sarah shouted, her voice steady despite the chaos. I turned back to the glowing symbols we had activated, now pulsing rhythmically as if imbued with an energy of their own. They seemed connected, almost forming a pathway. I could feel the hum of power flowing through them, and with it, an idea flickered in my mind, a way to channel the light, to direct our focus. "Let's form a chain, like before. We can create something stronger together," I said, trying to mask the tremor in my voice. "Right, let's do it." She nodded, a fierce spark igniting in her eyes. We took a deep breath, turned toward each other, and placed our hands firmly on the nearest symbols, channeling everything we had left into the light. As we pushed our energy together, the symbols blazed brighter, radiating warmth that pushed against the chilling shadows. It felt like a surge of electricity racing through us, alive, powerful, and full of potential. "Now!" I cried, as I felt the shadows tremble against the brightness. "Focus on driving it back." With every ounce of strength we had, we poured our fears, our hopes, and the weight of our mistakes into the glowing symbols. The dark form before us stirred, impatience radiating from its twisting shape. "Join your energies," Sarah urged. "Strengthen it." And we did. With a final push, the light erupted outward, crackling as it expanded like a shield against the encroaching darkness. The shadows screamed, a desperate, pained cry that mingled with the chorus of whispers echoing through the space. I could feel the weight of the darkness pushing against us, threatening to consume everything. Through the tumult, I caught a glimpse of something beyond the darkness. Fleeting images of stars, galaxies, and the vastness of the universe. It was like staring into a deep abyss of fear and wonder, a message hidden among the horrors. "It's not just a monster," I murmured, trying to understand. "It's a warning. A consequence of what we tampered with." The presence recoiled, shuddering under the power of our light, but it was clear. It wouldn't surrender easily. A storm of shadows surged, intensifying, and I felt the air shift. The embrace of the energy we fought to control flickered, trembling at the edges. "Push harder," Sarah urged, and I nodded, gritting my teeth as I drew on every last reserve of energy. Just then, a sound erupted from the darkness, a growl so primal it echoed memory deep within me, igniting a fight-or-flight response I couldn't quite comprehend. And then, silence. The energy around us hesitated. The harmonious rhythm of symbols began to falter, the luminous glow dimming as shadows closed in, looking for their moment to strike. "Liam," Sarah shouted, fear in her voice. "It's not enough. We need to channel something more powerful, a collective effort." In that instant, I understood. I felt an urgency rise within me, tethered by the connection we'd forged and the collective fears and dreams of those who had come before us, those who reached for the stars, who dared to discover what lay beyond. "Channel it into a focal point," I shouted. "Think of the light, the hope." We shifted our focus, honing in on that core essence connecting us, those who sought knowledge among the stars. I could feel the tremors of the darkness trying to envelop us, to snuff out our light, yet we held firm. "Together!" I shouted, and we pushed with everything. The symbols erupted into a blinding light pulsating like a cosmic heartbeat. The dark figure shrieked, the sound cutting through the air, melding with the cries of the shadows as they were pulled back. The breach we had awakened began to close, energy swirling like a storm. But then, in an instant, it was gone. The chaotic roar stilled, the rush of shadows evaporated, and as the blinding luminosity faded, a heavy silence fell over the observatory like a shroud. We stood together in the aftermath, breathing heavily, the remnants of light flickering around us. The silhouettes morphed back into shadows, dissipating like smoke. What just happened?" I said, my voice shaky. "I think we did it," Sarah replied, uncertainty lacing her words. "But at what cost?" I looked around the room, trying to process the sudden stillness. The symbols had stopped glowing, leaving only the faint echo of their power in the air. But the sense of unease clung stubbornly, like a whisper at the back of my mind. "Did we stop what we unleashed?" I pondered aloud, glancing towards the now quiet monitors. "I don't know," Sarah admitted, her eyes wide. "But the darkness could return. We tapped into something old and powerful." I nodded, feeling the weight of those words settle in my chest. We had survived, escaped the brink of something unnameable, yet I couldn't shake the feeling that it was only the beginning of a deeper mystery. As we left the observatory, the muted glow of dawn creeping through the trees, I cast a final glance back. I knew I wouldn't be returning to this place easily. The vastness of the night sky stretched above us, shimmering with lost possibilities. I still felt watched, remembered. I moved to a different city after that. Sometimes I wonder if Sarah is still there, if echoes of the shadows remain. But mostly, I try not to think about it. Just what it meant to brush against the edge of that darkness and glimpse the unknown.